Oh no, it's an honor. It's an honor, bro. Like I check your page and it's like a hip hop history lesson for things that I know, things that I didn't know, discovery, reaffirming, like reconfirming my knowledge. Like I love your page, bro. Like for real, for real.
Bro, thank you so much, man. And it's crazy because me actually just kind of coming up and paying attention to what you've always done. I mean, and you've been doing what you've been doing for so long, but at the same time, yo, you came out and then you literally begin to do this. You literally begin to really work with all the different angles of basically who you are. And I relate to that, man, because you ever have it with somebody's like, what do you do? And you're thinking to yourself, how should I answer this question? Because I have so many interests and there's so many things that I love and so many things that I do. How do you even answer that? What do you do?
What do I do?
You know, I'm saying, how do you
Um,
answer that question?
oh yeah, I dream, bro. The same thing I was doing in the projects. So what got me out the projects was the dream, and then manifesting that dream into reality. So I'm not an MC, I'm not a producer, I'm not a musician. I'm a dreamer manifester. I make the imagination real.
Wow, wow. There is a book, Duke Ellington Reader. In the Duke Ellington Reader, you know, he was playing. You know, there was a kind of a conversation they were having. He was playing the piano. He was talking to the person that was interviewing him, and they were like, "What do you call what you're doing right there?" He said, "Who?" He was playing. He said, "What, this?" He said, "Yeah." He said, This is dreaming." You know what I'm saying? So it's really. He said, "No, that's not playing the piano. This is dreaming." You know. So talk to me about the connection between, because you see what I was doing when I was playing those particular records or whatever, but tie in Funkin' for Jamaica to Blackout Peas for us. Why would I play such a song?
On our first record that we released on Interscope in 1998, we sampled Jamaica, Funky for Jamaica. We
Yeah.
sampled it on a song called
What it is.
um, "What It Is." Yeah, sorry,
No doubt.
I was so back in like in a trance
Yeah,
of what I was thinking in the studio to flip that,
yeah.
and like playing it live, getting the bass player to get the groove right. Mike
Mm-hmm.
Francino, shout out, like Mike Frantuno, our bass
Mm-hmm.
player back then was like he is a master. And so I
Mm-hmm.
had to program the drums on the MPC at the time, and figure out the chords. Brian Lapin,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the guitarist Kevin Brian Lapin and Kevin, and just trying to get the groove right, because that's a classic. And one thing, like if you're working with a MPC and you wanted to feel how to get the swing right on the
Right,
MPC,
right, right.
and I just remember that session like it was yesterday. So yeah, the song is called "What It Is" on Black Eyed Peas' first album, um, on Interscope in 1998.
Bro, that came out in my hood. It immediately caught on because one, we're from, I'm from right off of Linden Boulevard, back in the day in the Boulevard of Linden. Let's connect those dots, you know what I'm saying? Because you actually worked with Tip, like you worked with Q-Tip, you worked with Fife from the area.
Yeah. So first off, I'm a student of Tribe Called Quest.
Mm,
So every time I see Q-Tip, I thank him. Every
wow,
time I see De La Soul, I thank
mm,
them. Every time I see Busta Rhymes, I
mm,
thank them. Like, thank you.
wow.
Thank you so much for like existing and showing a person like me from the projects in East LA, like one of the only black families in an all Mexican neighborhood, that
Mm-hmm,
it's okay to be different. Because at the
mm-hmm,
time when we were coming up, like gangster rap ruled the
mm-hmm,
industry.
mm-hmm,
And so if you were not about the hood or dressed like the hood, and you were from LA, like
mm,
good luck getting a record
yeah,
deal. And
yeah.
so we got signed to Ruthless in 1992, and we were like, Sons of De La. So that's why I got to salute Easy E for like signing a group that was nothing like, what LA was supposed to be about. But it was De La and Tribe that was the path of like it's okay to not follow the herd. It's okay to be abstract. It's okay. You don't have to fit in. And
Right,
so
right.
with that and going that, this is who I am route,
Yeah.
we signed the epitome of gangster labels, Ruthless
Right,
Records,
right.
and which is
Yo,
dope, dude.
that's
Like,
so crazy when you think about that. Like, because you got Easy E over here. Easy E is like, look, you know what I'm saying? I'm from the streets. Easy E was like, look, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I write bars. A lot of times I might have somebody else write me some bars. I'm a businessman. But like, you're literally coming out of the battle rap scene. Like, you're literally a battle rapper.
yeah, I started off. That's how Easy found me, was battling, just freestyling off the top, and that's how I got on, and that
That's
was his,
crazy.
like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Bro, I'm literally sitting here and I'm thinking about I took that Nat King Cole and I played it. And I know you were probably listening like, okay, I see what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? Bringing, to kind of segue it right into Nas. Bruh, that's definitely one of my all-time favorites. You got to talk to me a little bit about what is that like, my brother? Like, what is it like working with just a fellow brilliant mind like Nas? Like, what was that like?
Um, I first got, you know, up on Nas on Live at the Barbecue,
Mm,
and I'm a big Main Source Large Professor fan, and, as well as, like, but I have a lot of producers that I look up to, but Large Professor was one of those cats. And then when Nas dropped his album, I was like, oh wow, this is the best album, not only of that era, but one of the best hip hop albums ever made.
right,
So
right.
when it came time to work with Nas, and I, like, got some wins on the board as far as, like, my production skills, I wanted to try to make a beat that could have fit on, Illmatic. Like, and I'm not saying it came close, but just the chop of it, something to where Nas is like, oh shit. I had to make Nas feel that. Like, that means the way I chopped it, and,
Yeah.
and, and yes, I'm taking a Nat King Cole
Hmm.
song, and chopping it up,
Hmm.
and flipping it. But
Hmm.
if you listen to the original record, it's like, where are you chopping it? Because he's singing,
Right, right,
right?
right,
There's
right.
not an empty section. So that means
Absolutely.
I have to really go in with the scissors and extend parts, and blend parts, and still keep the structure and the emotion and the energy of what,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
original composition was intending on it to be. And I have to pick the right type of drum loop, I have to pick the right type of drum sounds in this case.
Mm,
And it was
mm,
really to make Nas feel the same thing that he would
mm.
feel, if he was working with a large professor. Just the people.
Yes.
I'm a student of those cats, so everything
Mm,
I do in that realm is from, this is what it felt like when I heard it. Now, as I'm making it, do I feel the same way I felt when I heard these songs on these records?
right,
And
right,
I tried my best with that, and I like it, as if I didn't do it, I would still like it, and removing yourself from it. Or do I like it just because I did it? Because a lot of times
right,
producers
right,
can get caught up in, like, ooh, I love this. Like, no, nigga, you
right,
like that because you spend 1,000 hours on it.
right, right. No doubt. Yo,
Yeah.
it is that's it's funny because that is the challenge of a creative person to view your work as art, but then to also somehow accept it as a product too. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying?
mm, mm,
And
mm.
that's what's oftentimes difficult to kind of step outside of yourself. It's like that's why, like, I've heard people say, I don't know if you're like this. I've heard people say sometimes I have to walk away from the actual song, maybe even leave the room, go for a ride or whatever, and then come back in with fresh ears or whatever, just because you're so in the trenches with it for so long sometimes.
No, a parent always thinks their child is beautiful. Like, right, and it takes a really, like, sometimes a very a critique eye to look at your child and be like, that's the ugly motherfucker. Like, you know what I mean?
No doubt, no doubt. You gotta step. You gotta step out of daddy mode, step out of mommy mode for a second, and be
Yes,
like,
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see what everybody else is seeing. No, but I definitely feel you. So my thing is like this, bro. Like, let's jump into this. We're gonna come back to music, but you are into tech. To say that you're into tech is an understatement. But here's the thing that's really cool about that. What people don't realize is if you're a good producer, especially today, you must be into tech. You have to be. Like, you have to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, if you're not into tech, you're not really a producer right now. You know, and not even just right now, but, you know, even if you're using, you said the MPC or the SP12, that's technology. And when you think back on it, you know, even when you date back to, let's say, the 40s, Muddy Waters, you know, picking up an electric guitar, you know, to play it with the genre that was exclusively using an acoustic guitar, the blues. Everybody was doing that. And him going electric was a huge thing, because when we think about it, rock and roll is based, you know, what came thereafter is based on the electric guitar. And we use the electric guitar in hip hop today and in gospel and all these different things. And you realize how consequential it is. But technology is always at the forefront. Even if you go way back, it's like a saxophone it doesn't grow on a tree. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're using the technology of the time, you know what I mean? In order to create that thing. A piano is, you don't plant a piano, then it grows. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is still using technology, what's available at the time. So here we are today, and you're one of those really progressive voices that is in the know about a lot of things technologically. You'll talk to me about how, bro, you got into tech, period. How'd that happen?
I got into tech just because I'm a curious mind, and my first instrument to make music was the computer, was the Sony S550. And then from there I learned on the SP1200. And from there I learned on the MPC 3000. And then from that point, like, a friend of mine, Dave Pensado, was like, "Hey, well, I think you're gonna be really good on the Pro Tools. Have you heard of Pro Tools? This is 1990. This was 1998. I
Okay.
think you're really gonna like Pro Tools." I'm like, "Yo, what's Pro Tools?" He was like, "It's a computer-based program." And I'm like,
wait, where is he from? Let's establish that. Where's he from?
Dave Pensado, I think he's from the South. I just don't
Okay.
know what part of the South he's from, but he's like a world-renowned music engineer. This dude is like,
Absolutely.
he mixed the Daz band. He mixed everybody from Dre. He's like an amazing engineer. And
Daz, Disco Jazz.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I had a opportunity to to work with Dave Pensado, and he was like, "I think you're gonna really like Pro Tools because you could actually see the music,
Yeah.
and I see how you truncate your samples on Pro Tools with the waveform, and I think you're really gonna like waveforms as a way to produce." I was like, "There's no pads?" He was like, "Yeah, you could use. There are no pads, but you could make your beats on Pro Tools, make your beats on MPC, but you see it on Pro Tools." And so
Yeah.
from that point, once I got Pro Tools, my love with technology grew to a level which I'm a technologist. I'm not a musician.
Got it.
Like,
Got it.
I Stevie Wonder is a musician.
Yes.
Quincy Jones is a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could play the piano a little bit, but
Mhm.
I am a computer programmer. I
Mm.
play the hell out of that computer.
No doubt. No doubt.
I make the computer do things that, and once I realized that, I wanted to know all about Pro Tools. I wanted to know the people that made Pro Tools. I wanted to meet the people that started M Audio. And then from there, I
Mm.
kept going. I kept going, like, "Yo, how much did it cost to make this device? How much did
Wow.
it cost to develop this, platform?" Like, how many engineers do you have? And just like you
Right.
put a band together, if you want to go out and put a band together, I wanted to put up tech. I wanted to put tech teams together. You know, so like I always dreamt of having my own team. Like one day I'm gonna have my own team. I'm gonna have my own team of engineers. As soon as I get some like disposable money, I just want to have a team of engineers. Like I got a band. I got a drummer, a bass player,
Right.
guitarist.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
now I wanna make sure, you know, at any point in time I want to get a crew together that could like make stuff, and
Mm.
that's what I did. You know,
Like,
and then from there I was like, you know, I want to go back to my neighborhood and teach the kids these skills because growing
yes.
up in the hood, you know, how do you learn how to develop C? How do you learn how to code in C++? How do
Right.
you? Who's teaching these kids how to write in Python? Like how,
Right. Right.
you know? And we know the world is super technological tomorrow,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
like 1920, they weren't teaching us engineering in schools.
Right.
In
Right.
1920, in 1980, they weren't teaching us, you know, computers. It's
Right.
2020.
Right.
It's a whole new league of like computation. We messing with machine learning, machine vision, artificial
Yes.
intelligence, robotics,
Yes.
autonomy.
Yeah.
They ain't teaching that in Watts. They ain't teaching that
Right.
in freaking, you know,
Yeah.
Fifth Ward, Mississippi. So I
Yeah.
went back to my projects, and now I got me uh, you know, a school teaching kids robotics, computer science, engineering, advanced mathematics,
Mhm.
and I serve about 760 kids for the past 11 years.
Hold on. First of all, I just want to see some hands. I want to see y'all put your hands together for that. Because if there was a live studio audience, y'all should be clapping right now because that's serious. My thing is this: you actually sit on the board of artificial intelligence.
So I sit on the board of AI for um, the World Economic Forum,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I sit on the board of the Fourth Industrial Revolution Council for the World
Yeah.
Economic Forum as well,
Yeah.
and I sit on the board of a robotics program called First First International, which is like a youth robotics league. And yeah, I love working in tech. I love inspiring and mentoring kids
Yeah.
and providing them a path to not only fill jobs but create jobs. Because 2030 is different. 20 if you thought 2020 was bumpy,
Talk about that. Talk about that. Talk about how do we what are we looking at in 2030 and how do we equip ourselves, especially as a community, to prepare for that type of thing?
okay, in 2030, if you're an Uber driver, you're not an Uber driver.
Yeah.
If you're an Uber driver right now, you're not an Uber driver in 2030. That
Yeah.
job does not exist.
Yeah.
If you're a cashier at a supermarket,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably not your job in 2030.
Mm-hmm.
If you are and you all you have to do is just look at what COVID told us right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
COVID told
Yeah.
us that, you know, essential businesses are open, but that quick checkout, that little robotic teller where you just
Yeah.
swipe and go, that's going to get smarter and smarter and smarter because the companies that own that technology are the only companies that
Mm-hmm.
didn't get hit by COVID in 2020. All
Right.
the companies that all these companies, like if you look at Tesla, stocks up the roof. Why? Because the autonomous machine.
Yes.
You look at Amazon, stocks
Yeah.
up the roof. Apple
Yeah.
stocks up the roof. Facebook stocks up the roof. All these companies that did not get hit by COVID are all
Yeah.
technological companies,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that means they have more money to invest in artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is a great thing, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also a scary thing if we're not preparing the youth to build on these new platforms, right? So 2030 looks a lot like this, like biotech.
Mm-hmm.
If this was 2000,
Yeah.
everybody was like, "Oh shit, the internet's coming."
Right. Right.
And if this was
Right.
1999 turning into 2000, they were like, "Oh
Mm.
shit, when 2000 comes, there's gonna be this big bug that shuts the
Yeah.
whole internet down." But if you
Right.
think
Right.
about the infancy of the internet in 2000, it wasn't that big because the whole world wasn't on it. But
Right.
they were
Right. Right.
preparing The fear, I can't even tell you what we were afraid of when it went from 1999 to 2000 because
Right,
of the
right,
the
right, right.
Y2K bug.
Right. It was that was huge.
But that was huge, right?
Yeah.
But shortly after that, the internet didn't truly come until the internet ended up in our hand. And the
Mm,
I on the iPhone stands for the internet phone. It stands for like it was an operating system that was used for people at CERN laboratory to share their notes on the large hydrogen collider. So
okay.
there's this thing that happened a couple of years back called the Higgs boson, which is an experiment to find the God particle. And this has
Okay.
everything to do with coming 2030.
Okay.
It's for people that are lost in what I'm explaining. So in the early 2000s, sorry, when Bill Clinton was president and Al Gore was the vice president, America participated in a program called to find the Higgs boson. So we funded alongside a whole lot of other nations to find the God particle.
Okay.
And because of that, we have antimatter, and there's this huge facility in the middle of Geneva that goes through France and Germany and Switzerland
Yeah.
called the Large Hydrogen Collider.
Okay.
How they shared that information was something that Tim Berners-Lee and the crew helped create, which is the worldwide, the HTTP, the internet. The theory that Al Gore created the internet is, I believe, I was told that it was Al Gore's idea to make that a public, open it up for the public. Hence the
Got
reason
it.
why the World Wide Web came. Hence
Okay.
the reason why Al Gore sits on the board for Apple, because he helped guide Steve Jobs to take that project that was experimented on his next computer. And then when that next computer had an operating system that Steve Jobs would then take back to Apple to create iProducts. So that
Wow.
iProducts, when the phone was in our hand, that's when the internet truly took off, when the iPhone launched. And then we had
Exactly.
iOS, which is the internet's operating system. And
Right.
think about
Right.
all the businesses that came from iOS, from
Right. Right.
Ubers to
Yes.
Spotify to
Absolutely.
and how many industries it toppled, like the
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
industry and what
Yeah.
our product was.
Yeah.
So now take the transformation that happened from 2000 to 2020 and how the world has been connected in ways that we couldn't have imagined in 1980 and 1990. Now, just imagine from 2020 to 2030 what's going to happen. You're going to see biotech hop out of nowhere. We're in the middle of a crisis where we are trying to find a cure for COVID. We're trying to find a cure or a vaccine for COVID.
Vaccine.
And
Vaccine for
so
COVID.
much money. So they're looking for a cure and a vaccine.
Right. Right.
Point is, there's so much money being thrown at it. Right at the time we have a financial crisis. Technology's booming, and so is research for biological
Yeah. Yeah.
research,
Yeah.
which means we're probably going to have like biotech booming in 2030.
Wow.
So the world will be totally transformed, and we have to
Wow.
make sure that we are prepared, or else we all know the communities are going to be left behind. The communities that are be left
Absolutely.
behind are going to be
Yes.
ours once again. It's 1920 again.
Right. Right.
It's
Right. Right. Right.
1920, right? And
Yes.
in 1920, we were not building light bulbs. It wasn't us that were building power plants. It wasn't us that was like figuring out AC and DC.
Right.
We just sampling AC DC in
Right.
1980, but we were not
Right. Right.
trying to like figure out the complexities of electricity and
Yeah.
broadcast.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
our communities,
Right.
right? So
Right.
we don't have to repeat 1920. That's why
Right.
I want to make sure I went back to my neighborhood and
Yeah.
teach the kids in the community that I come from these
Yeah.
skill sets.
Listen, bro. First and foremost, thank you for this information, because this is the type of information that we need. We need to hear this because we don't have a choice. There is no other. There's no alternative. You understand what I'm saying? My thing is this, and I want to say this to all the people watching. I say this to my young people. When I'm teaching with Cross Academy, and shout out to my man Fahim, who does robotics as well, man. I would love to connect you guys as well. The most pro-black thing that a young person can do. Like, you know how we get to that point as young people, we've heard, man, you doing your homework, you doing that science, you doing that math, man, that's some white boy stuff, you know, yada yada yada. The most pro-black thing you can do, you know what I'm saying? The most pro-black thing you can do is actually connect yourself with technology, connect yourself with the sciences, the math, first and foremost, because it comes directly from your people. Historically, you go way, way back, and you can see that from your homeland or whatever, from our homeland, the technology, you know, we marvel over the Horum Akhet, or people call it the Sphinx. So we may marvel over the, you know, Pyramid of Giza, or whatever the case may be. But all these things had to do with the understanding of sciences, understanding of mathematics, understanding of technology, you know, it's available at that particular time. So there's nothing more pro-black you can do than to actually get up on your maths, your sciences, you know, your tech today. You know, tech today is so much more. I remember I was watching the episode of, you mentioned Stevie Wonder. I was watching the episode of The Cosby Show, and Stevie Wonder was on there with his synclavia, and he was
Yeah,
like, you know,
remember that?
sampling
What
or
did he
whatever,
say?
and like,
Oh, what was it? What was it? What was the part?
oh, baby, you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
that's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but
Yeah.
at that time, he very well could have had a spaceship on the show. You know what I'm saying? You know, based on where people were, you know, but Herbie Hancock is another one. You ever saw those clips of Herbie with
Mm-hmm.
all these computers around him or whatever, and he's using his musical skills, but he's understanding that whole tech thing. And so that's the thing I want to do. I want to know what is a way. I think part of it is people like yourself, representation, but people like yourself
Jamming on the
actually
one. Jamming on the one. Jamming on the one.
he said, my cousin said, Malcolm, Theo really plays Stevie Wonder because he made him think that jamming on the one is something that anybody ever said at a party ever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Jamming on the one, like that was never
Yeah.
said. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? So this is the type of education that we need. And so my thinking is we're using right now, we are communicating via our iPhone. It is the most, I'll tell you, this is the most powerful thing in the room, is a computer, and it's also the most delicate because, you know, you pour water on it and it's a wrap, you know what I'm saying? But it's also the most a powerful thing, you know, in the room, and it kind of, you know, mimics the brain and that kind of thing. How do you feel we, as our community, as you said, that we will be, once those things start happening, you know, the loss of those jobs, you know, will hit us hardest. How do we get this information? Because we all have phones, we all have that computer right in our hand, and we, as you were saying, we use it sometimes for a lot of BS. You know what I'm saying? But how can we use it how can we equip ourselves better in order to kind of move forward with that? Like how do we get that education? Where do we start?
So first you have to look at the phone for what it is. Like you take this word race and
Mhm.
you actually look at race for how you're supposed to look at race. And race is not race. Race is race. Right?
Absolutely.
And it's a race to economic power. It has nothing to do with this. To look at race as skin color is the
Mhm.
mind fuck. They
Mm.
condition you to think that race is this. Yes, race is
Mhm.
this, but the
Mhm.
reason why this is suffering is because we ain't racing for this. We ain't racing
Mhm.
for economic power. And right
Mm.
now, the path that will get us to economic power is through this machine right here. And you
Mm.
compete through that machine right there. You
Yeah.
compete. Like, what the hell is Zoom and where did Zoom come from? We wasn't
Right.
talking about Zoom in 2018.
Right. Right.
Now
Right.
imagine if Zoom came from freaking Zoom, 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 Zoom. Imagine that was freaking
Right. 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 Right.
who sung that?
Not are you thinking no, I'm thinking Rumshake. I'm not thinking
Zoom,
um
Zoom, 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 Zoom. Now I'm gonna get retarded.
yeah, it's like yo,
Who is
it'll
that?
come to me. It'll come to me.
Hold
It'll
on.
come to me.
It
Will I
was
am.
how many? It was freaking what was Craig Mack's first rap name?
Craig Mack. And I know what you're talking about. These is Long Island. This is Long Island guy. Wait, Scratch is on here. DJ Scratch. What's that record?
Zoom, zoom,
DJ
zoom,
Scratch is on it.
zoom, 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 so zoom, 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 so I could get retarded.
Easy, yo, he's an easy troop. He got easy troop. Easy Troop, aka Craig Mack. That was his original name. Yeah, because he was with EPMD. He to run with EPMD, and of course Scratch.
Like, the reason why I say that is, how come Zoom was? Imagine if Zoom was ours.
Right.
Like, all these platforms that come up out of nowhere, that could have been our community's platform. Like, we dominated everything. Lewis Hamilton, no one thought like a black dude would freaking win F1 as many races. Tiger Woods, no one thought it was possible. Serena sisters, like, no one thought that was possible. Right? Def Jam, like, no one thought that our community can create a record industry, a record company that would transform the record industry. Motown, no one thought that was possible.
Right.
And I think we now have to compete in the lane that is the most transformational, and that is platform building, right? Like, for example, think about how powerful, technology is. You can say, Alexa, and now electricity understands. They've made it to where you can program electricity to understand human language. And in a split second, go and fetch all the information on this thing called the internet and give you an answer via natural language understanding, natural language processing. This is like, if this was a Disney movie, you would think that was Hocus Pocus. As a matter of fact, Hocus Pocus. Shazam. Shazam is now a fucking product. Yes. It used to be like, open sesame, Shazam. Now that's a product. Like, you thought, like, on Disney, when they rubbed the lamp and out came a genie that knew everything, that gave you wishes, that's played by Will Smith, was fantasy. That's a product now. These things are product. Harry Potter, when they said Shazamerwitz, that's a freaking product now. We're almost these things that were fantasy being products. Yeah. And here we thought this stuff was like folklore and just like myths. No, bro, this is mathematics.
For real.
Advanced mathematics and algorithms have always been the key. Like, someone let the genie out the bottle. That is algorithms. That's mathematics. Absolutely.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, algebra is Arabic. So if you want to connect Arabic from algebra and the genie, which comes from the region, to say all these words that sound Arabic in the first place, and now Amazon, the biggest company in the world, tells you to say Amazon, and here comes your wishes, you just gotta pay, and I'll bring you some dishes. That shit is how we need to be competing. We need to be competing there. And that is how we get from always struggling to be a community that is always prospering. Right. When our kids, our nieces and our nephews could go back to back and fill in all these jobs that are that are unfilled. Like, Google needs engineers.
Yes, they do.
There's so many engineering jobs at Facebook that are unfilled. Yeah. And the people that are filling, we're not first in line to fill those jobs.
Right.
And if we could fill those jobs because we compete naturally, we're gonna have the opportunity to be like, nah, I'm not gonna fill that job. I'm gonna create a new company with my skill sets. Yeah. And that's how we need to fucking go, bro. Like, let's go. It's 2020. This is not 1980 where we're waiting for somebody to give us an opportunity. It's all right there. It all depends on what you search. Use that phone to learn up, knowledge up, build up. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. You know what? And you actually have programs or whatever that's doing robotics right now, just in the communities for young people.
Yeah. Like I said, I served 720 kids. One of our robotics team made it to the championships 2 years ago in Houston. I've sent 100% of my kids graduate and go off to Ivy League schools. I got a kid going to Brown right now for computer science. I got a kid going to Dartmouth for poli-sci. I got a kid going to Stanford. I got a kid going to Georgetown for computer science. And these are kids that come from my block. Like, they come from my neighborhood. And it's one thing to, like, I never say the neighborhood I come from in my music, because I don't think it's important to, like, claim my block. My
Right.
block knows where I'm. They know. They know where that I come from that
Right.
block. But I think it's more important for me to go back to my block and be like,
Mm,
all right, let's get it, y'all.
mm,
Let's do
mm.
this.
Yeah. 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 Yo, shout out to DJ Scratch. He's in here, man. Will, he's actually saying, Will is our Steve Jobs. Will is our Steve Jobs. Keep will.i.am protected. He's our Steve Jobs. You know, because one of the things that actually transcend it, one of the threads of what you do through your music, whether you're doing hip hop, whether whatever genre you're doing, um, over into the tech, which is interwoven, um, being progressive, being forward thinking, being an original thinker. And I was talking to somebody the other day. I think me and you were having a conversation about the word genius or whatever in how it's overly used and that kind of thing. And I absolutely agree. And I was telling somebody recently, it's one thing to perfect a thing. It's another thing to create a thing. It's another thing to actually build something, as you said, taking something that's a concept like a genie in a bottle and literally materializing it and make it into an actual product. And I think that some of the most brilliant people in our in music have thought that way in their own way, in various different ways. And I think that that's a concept, the concept of first and foremost being unique, because a lot of times you have to be okay with standing out, not necessarily just fitting in, but standing out, doing something that's a little bit different, and also not being afraid to do the thing that is not immediately looked at as cool to the next person. And I say immediately, not immediately looked at as the end thing or the cool thing to do. I think that there's a certain type of a thinker that is able to say, well, this is not necessarily what everybody's doing per se, but this is a great thing to do and have the courage to do it or whatever. And I think that when people see you, man, like doing it, it basically makes it real. I actually, I don't talk a lot about my children. It's my personal, but I'm gonna tell you one thing. When my children were watching television, they were watching, we were teaching them various things having to do with the alphabet, colors and shapes and numbers and all of this stuff. And at some point they found, and this is not a plug because I don't know who the people are, but they found this thing called Achilles in Me. It's this little black girl, animated black girl that is teaching about shapes and stuff. The minute they saw a little kid that looked like them doing something, it computed differently for them. You know what I'm saying? Something
Yeah.
happened with them. And I think sometimes, and that's why it's so great. You guys share this live right here. Even when it's posted, share this live because this is very valuable, very important information. I'm learning. I don't know about you guys. I'm learning a lot. I'm literally gonna go right back after this and watch this again, but this time I'm gonna take notes. So being a progressive thinker. Now, if you don't mind, I want to ask you about this right here. I want to ask you about just kind of switching gears. I guess kind of in talking about another progressive thinker, Michael Jackson. Okay,
Mm.
not everybody is able to say that they actually sat in the room with Michael Jackson, that they actually created, with Michael Jackson. You are one of those people who were able to do that. I even recently saw a story that you told on Ellen's show, which was hilarious about a Michael Jackson. I got a Prince
And
story
Prince.
myself. Yeah, it was hilarious. I have a Prince story myself. But talk to me, man. Talk to us about how did that materialize? How did it materialize that you are working with Michael Jackson at that time? How does that materialize?
I just got a random call from Michael Jackson one day. Like Black Eyed Peas in 2003, we released Ella Funk, and
Mm-hmm,
Words of Love just took off.
mm-hmm,
And when you have a song like that, like if you've had two albums out and then on your third album a song just takes off, that's actually the best way to have success because it's very
mm-hmm,
rare that people have a hit
mm-hmm,
from the first album and continue
mm-hmm,
to sustain it. So that's the reason why like people like Lady Gaga, I got a salute because it's so hard to sustain success when you had success from jump. And I'm not saying that she had success from jump because she's
Mhm.
had a long ride before that album.
Right. Right.
And this
Right.
has everything to do with Michael Jackson. So I think Michael Jackson in 2003, when Where's the Love blew up, and then Apple called us to be a part of launching iTunes and iPods with a song called Hey Mama. And then from there, the NBA called us to do this NBA campaign for Let's Get It Started.
Yes.
And then from there, we launched Ella Funk. And Ella
Yes.
Funk, I mean, sorry, we launched Monkey Business, and Monkey Business took off. And that's when I got the call from Mike, because I think he saw how consistent we've been and how we've actually had, like, our growth was a very healthy growth. To start from nothing to have a little something,
Mhm.
to kick into gear, and we just always went up. We didn't really have a
Yeah.
valley.
Yeah.
So he called me and he was like, "It's Michael." I'm like, "Yo, who's this? Stop messing around." We was on tour. He was like, "It's Michael." I'm like, "Nigga, stop playing, fool. Like, who is this?" He was like, "It's Michael Jackson. Nobody ever believes me. Everybody thinks I'm always doing prank calls." I'm like, yo, bro.
Yo.
I'm like, yo, bro, like, stop messing around. Whoever the hell this is, I ain't got time, bro. Like, so I hung up the phone, right? And so
Everybody hangs up on Michael Jackson the first time. Everybody hangs up on
so then he calls me back again. He's like, "Well, it's Michael. It's really Michael." I'm like, "For real?" He's like, "Yes, it's me. I really want to figure out a way to sit down with you and talk about how we might work together. And I'd really like to, pick your brain on some things." I'm like, "Oh, wow. Oh, shucks. Okay. Like, where you want to meet?"
Yeah.
He's like, because this is when he was living in Bahrain in the Middle East
Yes.
when he was
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
through all of that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
He was like, "Why don't you meet in Ireland?" Right? So you have to understand, like, what was going on in culture in
Okay.
2006.
Yes.
Right? Now
Yes.
hold on, check this out. So in 2000, Napster came, and Napster shook up the industry. And
Right.
Napster was like, "We have a new distribution." And you have to realize the record company was always the radio station, RCA, Radio Corporation of America.
Mhm.
And then when they started, when they took Edison's gramophone
Mhm.
and that became their logo for RCA,
Yes. Yes.
that gramophone is our Grammy Award.
It is
So,
absolutely. Yes.
right?
Yes.
So the record industry was always technology. It was always broadcast.
Absolutely.
Television, NTSC
Absolutely.
or PAL, it's
Yeah.
always broadcast. But
Yes. Yes.
the World Wide Web and Napster told us that we are now just a file. And I could share that at lightning speed. I don't need your distribution to send songs from a computer to a computer. I don't need your radio waves. And after you get off this call, go online and check out electromagnetic spectrum. And you will see that the RGB, what we see as color, the physical world that we
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
will go from we'll stop at red, then infrared, and after infrared you get microwave, and from microwave you get radio wave.
Yeah.
And after blue you get like violet, from violet you get ultraviolet, ultraviolet you get X-ray,
Right.
X-ray you get
Right.
gamma ray.
Right.
And the
Right.
internet is the opposite spectrum of radio waves. And that is high frequency, right? And then that'll take you to then we're going to talk about like 3G, 4G, 5G, but let's not talk about that now. Let's go back to Michael Jackson. So in
Right.
2000, from 2000 to 2005, the record industry was compromised. So big record companies are like, "Yo, we need to get our publishing back because that's the only thing that has value. The physical recording is no longer valuable
Right.
because we're going to get into new distribution methods." So Michael Jackson didn't want to sell his catalog to Sony ATV. He owned the majority of Sony ATV. So all these things popped up when Napster popped up. So if you look at Napster to Michael to, getting the catalog back and him refusing lawsuits, so then I'm in Ireland just knowledging up on Mike just hitting me with all this stuff. I'm like, "Yo, bro." Anyway, so Mike, we became really good friends. like
Wow.
super, super deep friends. As a matter of fact, he was like, how much am I supposed to pay you? I'm like, no, 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 no. You ain't paying me to fly to go produce with you. I'll pay myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like, what do you mean? I'm like, most people that work with you probably trying to like cha-ching you. They
Right.
probably
Right.
trying to get a check. I don't.
Right.
You're my hero, so
Yeah.
I'll pay to go see you. And
Mm.
if we make something and we want to put it out, then
Mm-hmm.
we talk business. But right now we just
Mm.
vibing. I want you to
Mm.
trust me. I want you to
Mm.
trust not only my heart, but my
Yeah.
work ethic, and know
Yeah.
that I'm not trying to take advantage of you. So
Yeah.
you keep your hard drive for your songs,
Yeah.
for your vocals. I'll keep the
Yeah.
hard drive for my music. And when
Mm.
you want to put it out, we'll marry them. And you
Wow.
trust me, I will never, ever, ever leak or burn, whatever. So I gained Michael's trust. And
Mm.
so when he passed away, everybody was like leaking records.
Mm.
I don't get down like that. So I
Yeah.
really like to collaborate and make sure that people are can trust and protect. But
Yeah.
we became really, really good friends to the point that when Prince asked me to go jam with him at the Palms and at Club Rio in Vegas,
Mm.
I brought Mike with me. I'm like, yo, Mike, I'm rocking with Prince tonight. He was like,
Mm.
oh, I don't know if I could go, if I can do that. I'm like, no, everything's gonna be great. Everything's gonna be cool. And so Mike came. If you ever see Chris Tucker, he'll
Yeah.
tell you because he was there. Chris was
Really?
like, Chris was like, well, I don't know how you pulled Mike to come and see you rock with Prince because. So then Mike, he was like, yeah, you know, Prince is he's always been a meanie. He's always been a meanie. And and then that night, Prince, that's when he came to the stage, came off stage to Michael's section that was private and started playing the bass in his face.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like, bam, 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 bam. And so after that jam, after he started jamming, Prince was like, why was Mike playing the bass in my face? Anyways, but yeah,
Yo.
Prince like, so Mike was like, why is Prince playing the bass in my
Yeah.
face?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yo,
Yeah.
Mike, I think it was just out of respect. He was like, no, you don't
Like.
understand, Will. He's always been a beanie. He's always been a meanie. And so fast forward like a couple months later, Quincy Jones calls me. He was like, hey, man,
Mm-hmm.
how's it going, man? I'm like, hey, Quincy, what's up? He
Mm-hmm.
was like, when are you going to work on my record, man? I was like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
Quincy, like, I've just been working with Mike. He was
Mm-hmm.
like, good luck, man. Good luck, man. You know, he's going to have you working for years on things and never put nothing out. I was like, no, we're really vibing. I just want him to get comfortable. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
that's good. Soon, if Michael's comfortable with you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's the way to work with Mike because so many people have burned Mike.
Mm.
And so then Quincy was like, you know, I was like, yeah, I brought Mike to come see me rock with Prince the other night. He was like, you did what, man? I was like, yeah, I did, Quincy. Like, it was me and Chris Tucker and Michael watching Prince.
Yeah.
And so then Quincy's like, well, if you did that, man, you doing something, man, because here, Will, do me something, will.i.am. I need you to go on YouTube and type in James Brown, Prince, and Michael Jackson. And
Oh, he
because
brought you there with it? You went there with it?
only reason because Michael told me that night. Michael told me after that night with Prince, he was like, yeah, there was one time Prince tried to run me and my mama over with the car. After that, I was like, yeah, right. But to make a long story short, Quincy confirmed it because that happened that night of that show because Prince was so furious that he thought he was set up. So Google
Wow.
that. Google it. You'll see that. You see that James Brown's on stage. He was like,
Yes.
Micah,
Yes.
Micah, get up here, Micah. Micah, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. Right? So then Michael gets up there and like does this little thing, does his dance and shit. Then he whispers in James Brown's ear, like shh, 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 shh.
Prince is here.
And James Brown. So then James Brown gets on the mic. He's like, and give it up because he insists. Micah, he insists. Prince. So then Prince comes on. This dude, his bodyguards like gives him piggyback ride.
Yeah, he's on the back.
On this, right? And you know the video I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
what
yeah.
happened after that was
Yeah.
Michael had left, and Prince tried to like run him over. And Michael, that's what Michael told me. And so then when Michael came to my house, I played him that video on YouTube. And so he was so disconnected with technology.
Yeah.
He's like, where did you get that from? Where'd you get that video from? I'm like, it's on the internet. He's like, what do you mean? On YouTube? What's YouTube? I was like, can you take that down? Take that down. I was like, you can't take that down. He's like, what do you mean you can't take it down? Take it down. Who has that? He was so like not that was the part that broke my heart. Is because Michael got to a point where he was not connected to technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was so in a bubble.
Yeah. Yeah.
His people kept him so removed from the world.
Yeah.
And Prince was the opposite. Prince would say
right.
He was the opposite. He didn't like technology as far as the recording of music on it. He was like, if it never made a sound, it's not real. He didn't like digital music, stuff that's only in the box.
Right.
He's like, when I play the guitar, it needs to come and push air. If it never pushed air, it's not real. And so that's a very profound thing, because like yesterday when you were like, yo, you know, you're a genius. I was like, no, bro, bro. I don't like that fucking word genius, bro. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people that take that word like, ooh, you a genius, and they let that stuff like affect them to where they now start to think they're greater than people. Like, no, that's a poison. Like, the geniuses are the people that are out there like solving problems.
Absolutely.
Like, a genius is a person, like, a genius is like, I'm just passionate. I'm not no genius. Quincy Jones is a genius. Prince is a genius. Don't put me in that category. The hell no. I would tell you, like, don't do that. And here's why that's dangerous. Because we use these words so loosely that we lost the value of the word. And now we're gonna have these devices in a hot second that are gonna start curing you. You're going to start believing in this technology. Right now, you don't believe in the technology. You don't value the technology. But eventually, when the technology is in your bed and you lay in that bed and you're praying for the technology to freaking cure you, we're going to move really fast from a nation from a people that used to be spiritual and pray to a God. And now people have no connection with God, and they're just going to freaking like idolize this technology. You're not supposed to idolize the technology. We have the ability to make the technology. Never let the technology make you. Never let the technology like guide you to for where you think you're inferior to it. You are not inferior to it. You can make it. You can create it. And we are about to watch this God come into, like, there's rappers that say they gods. Like, no, bro.
Right.
There's something that is coming.
Yes.
I see it, bro. Like, you could, like I said, there's a lithium battery in a device. You could program it to understand the human language. At any moment now, that thing is going to be walking. That thing is going to be driving and droning. Right. That thing is going to be able to recognize you and understand all of your past because you put it on Facebook, and all that data is accessible and purchasable. Yes. At any given time, this machine will know you better than your government, your family, your religion, your wife, your husband. At any given time, this machine is going to be able to predict your future. At any given time, this machine is going to be able to freaking fix you. And if you're going around calling people geniuses and gods, what are you going to call that machine? You do not praise the machine. There's a group called Raised Against the Machine for a reason.
Absolutely.
We are Geppetto. We are not Pinocchio.
Yo, bro, you just invented your Plymouth Rock Malcolm X line, right?
No, for real, like.
No, but that absolutely, bro, absolutely.
Yo, I'm starting a new group called NWA, and it's called Niggas Writing Algorithms.
No doubt. Yo, because that's the crazy thing, because when you said like predict the future, like these like it's really algorithms. Like they know what you're about to do, what you're about to like a lot of times you talking about how, you know, when you're typing, they kind of know what to kind of put in front of you because of what you've done before. So it's like this, it's like an algorithm kind of a thing, correct?
No, like, yeah, but
Yeah.
even beyond. For like when you know people be like, yo man, I was on Instagram, I was on like Facebook, and that this ad came up, I swear to God they listening to me. Nah, bro,
Right.
they ain't listening to you.
Mhm.
They could predict you.
Mm, mm,
Like Facebook doesn't have to listen to you anymore. They could predict your next move.
mm,
Now if you know that Facebook and Instagram can predict you, like why are we on it? We on it because we addicted. Like
mm,
there's only three things that have users as their titles for us. That is a video game has a user, and we getting played.
mm,
Drugs has
mm,
users, and
mhm,
we the addicts. And
mm.
social media is a combination of video games and the drug game because we addicted and the addicts to this algorithm. Got to go.
Bro, that's why listen, that's why we need you on that board and doing what you're doing, because you're actually spreading the good gospel of the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? Like you're actually doing what needs to be done. I actually heard you talk about data usage and who owns like you have like face recognition and like who owns like the face or who owns like the likeness or who owns your data or whatever. Talk a little bit about that right quick, man, about like our personal data.
So if this was 1950 and I had the amount of money I have,
Mm-hmm.
you could go out and invest in commodities
Mm-hmm.
and like oil, gas. If this was 18, you could people were investing in like
Mm-hmm.
coal, and if this was 1880, you're investing in coal, you're investing in tobacco and cotton.
Mm-hmm.
And we know the people that worked in the factories to
Mm-hmm.
get that cotton and where the cotton factories were. They called them
Mm-hmm.
plantations.
Yes,
And
yes,
that's our people, our
yes,
ancestors. My grandma's grandma,
yeah.
that was the workers for that machine.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why the North is because that's not where the cotton and the tobacco factories. It's too cold up there.
Absolutely,
So if you
absolutely.
think of technology, if it wasn't for the cotton gin,
Mm-hmm.
and we probably wouldn't have been liberated. As much as we want to give credit to Abraham Lincoln,
Yeah.
I would say it's the cotton gin and the cotton
The
mill,
the cotton's absolutely, bro. Technology.
right? So here, what does this have to do with data? Everything has to do with data, because don't forget, like I said, those were commodities. You invested in them, and now here we are. If this was 1980,
Yeah.
you invested in oil,
Mm.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
In 2020, you're investing in data and convenience.
Mm.
And one of the biggest customers for Facebook are governments. That's the reason why Russia's a threat, because they
Absolutely.
could access, right? They're not doing anything illegal. They're just buying the stuff from Facebook. Now, what
Right.
type of company is Facebook if they're selling data to enemy nations with no
Yeah.
regulations? That's because
Right.
there's no regulations.
Yeah.
There's no guidelines. For example, if we're Time Magazine and we print something, we have to make sure we have facts on what we print.
Right.
Facebook don't
Right.
have to have that. They could
Absolutely.
they could they could circulate a whole bunch of lies. They
Yeah.
could target you based on your data and the things you
Yeah.
like. All those surveys that you said,
Yeah.
do you like hip hop? What type of artists you like? What type of
Right.
politics you like? All those
Right.
surveys,
Right. Right.
that is just data aggregation. So
Right. Right.
6 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I was at the World Economic Forum, and they had asked me like 7 years ago. I was at World Economic Forum. They asked me, "What does 5 years look like?" I was like, 5 years from now, we are going to be in the middle of a data. I swear to you, somebody recorded it. It's up. It's
Mm-hmm.
somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, data is going to be the most important conversation because right now the conversation is identity theft. But everybody's thinking identity theft is used or somebody stealing my bank account information. I am not my bank account number. I am not my driver's license number. I am not
Mm-hmm.
my ID number. I am not my passport number. I am my searches. I am my address book. I am my locations. I am my spell check. I am my pictures. I am my comments. I am all that stuff. So meanwhile, I'm worried about my identity, but I'm giving away my true identity by what my phone tells me. And in 5 years from now, it's going to be identity. When you marry your identity and your data behavior, because that's truly who I am.
Wow.
Now, what does that mean moving forward? All the biggest companies in the world that are worth over $1 trillion are wealthy because they have things that they have knowledge of your every move. Like, you remember this song, like, Christmas is right around the corner. Remember this freaking, like, he knows when you've been sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Hold up. Like, yo. How that nigga know if I've been bad or good? How that nigga know? Like, if I've been sleeping or if I've been awake? How in the fuck does Santa Claus know that shit? Like, back in the day, you had no clue. You never even thought about it. You just sung the song.
Yes.
But now they know when you're sleeping, and they know when you're awake, and they know if you've been bad or good. And if you're being bad, you get canceled, for goodness sake. So you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why, because Facebook ain't no fucking joke, bro.
Damn.
So data is important. Data is the new gold. And it just so happens, if this was like the gold rush, like, think about this, bro. Think about this. Look at this. What does WWW stand for?
World Wide Web.
No, the Wild Wild West. Because it's the same thing when the West went to San Francisco to find gold in the first place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In 1849.
Yeah.
1749. I forget where the fucking when the gold rush was. Fact is, there's new gold. It's called data, bro. And it's more powerful than oil. It's more powerful than gold ever was. And it's more knowledgeable than any other monarchy. Right? There's new kingdoms. There's new kingdoms that are surfaced. That are right. And every time there's a kingdom, America is America because it didn't want to be ruled by that kingdom. French is French because the fucking queen said, feed them cake. And they're like, nah, fuck that. And they revolted. And there's going to be a new type of uprising when people get hip to the power of data and how we're all manipulated and how there's no regulations. You know? And it doesn't have to get wild. And the reason why I say the Wild Wild West, because the Wild Wild West is the first time there were no regulations.
Right.
A cowboy could just shoot.
Absolutely.
Everybody, like, think about the conditions of the Wild Wild West. They were looking for new settlements. People were looking for gold, and they could just shoot anybody because the sheriff was bullshit. And that's what's happening right now on the Wild Wild West. People are like, you can buy data, you can manipulate elections, Brexit could happen because of it. Watch this documentary called The Greatest Hack. Watch the other documentary called, The Social Dilemma. Get knowledge up on just how fragile society it is and how fragile these platforms that we're on and just how the world is waiting for a platform of the people, a technology for humanity and not greed, where it's stakeholders working with stakeholders and being a stakeholder in the community and not only making business for shareholders.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What now? Do you feel that you talk about the 2016 election, you know what I'm saying? And we talk about Russia and like how Russia utilized that or whatever. Do you feel like they were ahead of the game in doing that?
Yeah, there's a couple of spots on the planet that are, like, say for example, you wanted to make an app, right? A real smart one, and you wanted to outsource. You wanted to be able to you wanted to go to developers to go develop your product. If it was VR or advanced geometry, you're going to go to Ukraine. You're going to go to Turkey. You're going to go to Russia. There are awesome teams out there. It's not their fault that they have awesome developers.
Right.
Right? It's not. You're gonna go to India, but the folks that are in India, they've already that's like where Google goes. That's where Facebook gets all their awesome CTOs. But if you want some awesome quick stuff, on a budget, you're going to Ukraine, you're going to Russia.
Right.
So they have all these developers. Here's where they're not going. They're not going to the Bronx. They're not going to Queens. They're not going to Brooklyn. They're not going to East LA. They're not going to Watts. They're not going where we at, because that's not where we're on yet. Right? And that I think from 2020 to 2030, this is the 80s.
That's what we need to be on. Yeah.
Like the 80s, think about what happened in the 80s. It's the 80s and the early 1900s as far as what to compare it to. In the 80s, we just got finished leaving disco. There's new technologies about to emerge. Reagan became president. Music in schools got stripped out of the curriculum.
Absolutely.
The Bronx and New York went bankrupt. Reaganomics kicked in.
Yes.
Pablo Escobar is kicking off, has a product that the world loves.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? El Chapo and the crew are selling freaking cess, dirt weed, and they freaking raking in the dough. And that product, fast forward, is going to be a legal product in 2020. Whatever Chapo and those cats was doing, selling weed, getting caught, that's legal now.
Exactly.
The reason why I say that, because 1980s also gave us computer games. 1980s also gave us freaking samplers and 808s.
Yeah.
Technology entered music in a very, very serious way. The Japanese brought amazing freaking technology with Roland.
That's TR 808.
Right? Hip hop took off in a major way. Music talking about what was happening in the streets, broken glass everywhere, people pissing on the streets that just don't care. That's like social commentary. What's happening in New York, because the news ain't telling the truth.
Right.
So that became the way that we told our news. Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. They said, don't push me, because he's trying not to lose his head. And then White Lines, he said, don't do it, baby. He said, don't do drugs.
Right.
Hip hop did its best to try to guide us in the right way. The 80s, and then AIDS popped off. AIDS is equivalent to our COVID. You don't know how you caught it. I remember growing up in the 80s, my mom was like, don't you be drinking out of nobody's cups.
That's you gonna catch AIDS, no doubt.
You gonna catch AIDS. And guess what? When that happened, they didn't shut the world down.
Right.
The world didn't get shut down with AIDS. That's because we didn't have this thing called fake news. We didn't have, everybody wasn't a broadcaster. Everybody wasn't a media agent. Everybody didn't have the same power as ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN. An individual, T.L. Cross, has the same reach. But check this out. Hold up. Here's this knowledge bomb. In 2020, no one has freedom of speech on a platform where you don't truly have freedom of reach, because the algorithm will swallow what you teach, preach, and seek.
Say that one more time, bro. Say that one more time.
No one truly has freedom of speech on a platform where you don't have freedom of reach, because the algorithm will swallow what you preach, teach, and seek. So, for example, if I go on fucking Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I say some wild ass shit, they're gonna retweet it, because that's what the algorithm is designed to do. If I go out and say some stuff that's some love shit, and I'm trying to help people, how come my school ain't retweeted 1 trillion times?
Right.
Because the algorithm is not designed for that. The algorithm wants to see my ass. The algorithm wants to see my balls. The algorithm wants me to fucking say some wild ass shit.
Yeah, no doubt.
And the reason why is because we didn't design the algorithm.
Yeah.
If we designed the algorithm to empower our communities, love will echo loud. It takes everybody to do a march. It takes a march, and it takes everybody to go out on the streets, millions of us, to get heard. But it takes one person to put a knee on somebody, and hate echoes, because that's what the algorithm wants. Right? And I want to make sure I'm sensitive to that. George Floyd, you know, like that hate in that cop's eyes, that piercing, you know, and then all the people to go out and revolt against that and take to the streets to show love and solidarity. Like, why does this continue to happen? You're fighting. Black Lives Matter is not only talking, like, who, when Alicia and the crew said Black Lives Matter, who are they saying it to? Us?
Right.
Or are they saying it to the people that have economic power? Or are they saying it to the machine? Because we're not programming the algorithm. Now, when the algorithm is patrolling the streets in a drone and they could see it from above written on the streets, somebody has to tell the machine that Black Lives Matter, because we know in 2030 it's going to be patrolling our neighborhoods. So Black Lives Matter is being told to a bunch of people. It's being told to us to remind us. It's being told to the economic elite, and it's being told to the fucking machine. Because we are not telling it, but we ain't programming it. It ain't us creating the algorithms and the biases.
Right.
It ain't nobody we know out there making sure these algorithms are kind to us.
Right.
So Black Lives Matter, when you can see it from a satellite, when that thing every 90 minutes orbits the Earth and sees it, that's a hack to let the machine know that we matter.
Now that's crazy, because when that time comes, the machine, you know, could very well be can matter, while Black lives do not matter, right? So a person can be more concerned with the actual life of the machine than the actual life of the Black person.
That's what we're gonna have in 2030. Right now, we're dealing with racism. 2030, it's machinism. We're gonna demand more rights than the machine, and nobody's trying to demand. If a corporation has the same, you know, at some point in time, somebody made the law that a corporation has the same rights as a person. And when that happened, we all know that a corporation has more rights than a Black person. And the machine, that's a thing that we're going to be fighting against. That's why we got to learn how to program that machine. We got to know how that machine is made. We got to know, and that's not a far-fetched thing to do. That's why if you got a niece and a nephew, get your niece and nephew down that STEM curriculum, that science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Yes. And that's something that, I mean, it is like you hear that STEM all the time. Even with, you know, Cross Academy, my performing arts school, you know, you always have to have the element of STEM, but that's something that you want. That's something that you want to have. Even as a person, as I'm hiring production instructors, you know, we're going through, you know, you got the MPC studio, the Renaissance, you know, you have, you know, the computers, all these different programs, and it's basically opening them up and opening their eyes, you know, to certain types of things, because they're already at a very young age, they're already becoming addicted to apps. You know, very young, they're becoming very addicted to apps. Bro, what we need to do is we need to have, I don't know, you guys, give me a smiley face if y'all think this, but we need to at some point soon have a part 2, my brother, because there is so much information, and I want the algorithm to somehow get this to go viral, because this is something that we need. This is something that our community needs, and we need to actually do our part in that. So I ask you all to, not for my sake, I swear to you, I promise you, this is just information that I really think needs to get out there. So if you can, once it's posted, to share this, because it's worth it. Even if what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually probably edit it into the point with the meat of it, you know, like my intro and all that. So I take that up, but the meat of a lot of what you're saying, that really needs to be out there because we need to take that in and understand that information. And I appreciate you for that, man.
No, for real. Like I think like the past is awesome. Like we one of the only communities, and we need it. We need Black History Month.
Yeah, yeah.
But when we see our Black History Month, that's why I really like what Alicia from Black Lives Matters is doing. Like she has Black Lives Matter, she has Black Future, Black Future Labs, and Black Lives Matter and Black Future Labs. Like to me, that's an awesome sentence.
Yeah.
Like Black Lives Matter to have a Black future, and you know, our Black tomorrow. What's that? We know Black history but our Black tomorrow is super important, or else we're always going to be looking back at our past. And our past, it's very important.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. But our future,
absolutely.
Our future, we could design that right now. And that's why us having our own platforms, having an elite squad of algorithmic programmers, you know, problem solvers, computer scientists, developers, you know, click up, build up. I love music. I love beats.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you know, I remember it's 2006. I came back home from tour and I go into Jimmy's office. I'm like, yo, Jimmy, we need to have our own hardware, bro. He's like, well, what are you talking about? I'm like, yo, we need to have our own. Imagine we use our own music to sell our own stuff. Well, what do you know how they call it hardware? It's because it's hard. I was like, I know, Jimmy, but like, let's do our own stuff. And so a year later, he's like, I was talking to Dre, and I mentioned in the conversation we had a while back, and his manager wants him to sell sneakers. You want to be a part of it? Because I told him we should sell speakers. I was like, I was really thinking about computers, though. He was like, it doesn't matter. We'll eventually get there. I was like, well, what you want me to do? I just need your brain. I need your brain. Just come in every once in a while and sit in our sessions. And my whole thing was to over-deliver. When we were doing beats, it didn't matter if people knew I was a part of it. I just wanted to make sure that my ideas helped move. And I'm proud to be a part of beats from the beginning. And so when we did Boom Boom Pow, I'll be rocking them beats. I was talking about the product.
The actual product. Absolutely. Absolutely. I see what you did there. Yo, that's crazy. You know what? And it's funny because that is something that historically a lot of the great writers and great music creators have done. Interweave, duality, putting stuff in there that can be taken one way, but then it's also another way that could be taken. And I think some of the greatest people have actually done that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, it stands on its own without talking about the product, but you also know that that's what you're talking about. And if a person's on, they got it. Man, I appreciate that, man. That's like super, super dope. Well, bro, let's continue this conversation, man, behind the scenes, and let's come back on whenever we can, to kind of share this information more.
Yeah, so I just want to, before we like sign off, I just want to give a shout out in spirit to Easy-E. Thank you so much for believing in me back when I was 17 years old. And then fast forward 20 years later, shout out to Dr. Dre for, being open-minded for me to be a part of Beats when I was 37 years old. So full circle from starting with the same crew, being an oddball that Eazy-E respected, and being that same oddball that Dr. Dre valued to be a part of Beats. Like, he could have picked anybody. He could have picked anybody to be, the third equity shareholder of the company. And but he valued the brain and my past and my contributions, and it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Eazy. So that's the connection between Eazy, myself, and Dre.
Absolutely.
And I'm the last dude you think of when you think of like hardcore gangsta ass dudes. You know what I mean? Like, I told myself, like, I was talking to some of my homies from my old neighborhood. I was like, yo, y'all know that if if I was a part of the gang growing up, we would have been incorporated by now. I would have took, because we would have been on the nigga, we would have been on the stock market if I was in the gang. Like I would have fucking we would have been in the
Yo, I
industry by
believe
now,
it.
bro.
Yo, I believe it, bro. I believe it. Listen, you know what? What I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm gonna as I'm signing off, I'm gonna keep you on with me or whatever. What I usually do is I usually have the person sign off, but I'm gonna do like SNL. I'm gonna do like Saturday Night Live, and I'm gonna sign off, and I'm gonna keep you up here with me or whatever. Is first and foremost, I want to say thank you to will.i.am. Put your hands together, man, for coming on
Right
and
up.
giving us such knowledge. This has been amazing. It has been eye-opening. I want to say shout out to DJ Hurricane. Shout out to, I want to say Natria. I want to say shout out to Kim James, my producer. Shout out to Leotis Clyburn. Shout out to Shantae Armstrong. And shout out to Efwa. I'm out. Peace, man. Again, appreciate you, bro.
All right, bro.
All right, y'all. We out. Later.